Have we told everyone yet?
What about your surgery?
I want to be called Loretta.
You look like Loretta.
I do, don't I? So, interesting things been happening yesterday.
Very.
Well, the last couple of days. If people read our emails, they may have remembered, or they may remember. I said the other day that one of my guys has just put his prices up by 300%. So he's now charging 3 times what he was. Then some other interesting stuff. I mean, I particularly bang on about price a lot. But there's a reason for it, because as I often say to people, and they still don't fucking listen, your profits are essentially controlled by your margins. That's it. There's no other way of doing it. I can prove it if they want me to. If they pay me, I'm not doing it for free. I can't be fucking arsed. You know? But your profits are dependent on your margins, and your margins are dependent on your prices, and your prices are dependent on you. That's it. I mean, that's it. It is that simple.
It's a nice little model there, John. You should draw that.
I could do, yeah. That's simply.
Yeah, that's a nice little LinkedIn post there. Some interlinking.
It is that simple. And I know when you start getting into calculating your margins and your profits, because you've got fixed and variable costs and cost of provision and cost of advertising, all that kind of stuff. You know, because sometimes you don't incur a certain cost until you sell something. I'll get all that, but that's just detail. It's just maths. It's just accounting. But the fact remains, your profits depend on your margins depend on your prices, and your prices depend on you. It's that fucking simple. And the only exception, or not an exception, the only difference to that, or the only, it's like a side issue, is if you cut your costs, that too goes straight on your bottom line.
Yeah.
I prefer. Don't get me wrong, cutting costs is perfectly valid and sometimes useful. I prefer to focus on raising my prices rather than cutting my costs.
Of course,
it has the same effect.
Yeah,
and the danger with cutting costs is you can often get yourself inferior service. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Can I ask a couple of questions that may seem a little bit obvious to us, but I think are good to ask. So this 3 times increase, did he change anything in his deliverables or the service he was giving?
No.
And did you say there was no pushback when he was quoting people the 3 times higher price?
No pushback at all.
None at all?
No.
So you're telling me that he didn't change anything other than some numbers which dictated the amount of imaginary made-up bank tokens he was
Let me give you the kind of the full context. Hitherto, he's a photographer. He's got ADHD as well. So in classic ADHD fashion, which I'm very familiar with, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. No problem. It'll take me 5 minutes. 3 hours later, it's still only taking you 5 minutes. Because it's. I think most people tend to underestimate the amount of time things take and overestimate their ability to do it. Mm-hmm. I think we all do it. ADHD, you're particularly prone to it. So anyway, he would say he would get a photo shoot booked. And he'd say, yeah, that's going to take me 5 hours, so here it is. Here's the money that it's going to cost you. What he wouldn't factor into that is travel time, accommodation, edits, de-drawing and talking to the people, and then downtime, because you think, oh, fuck, I'm knackered. So what actually maybe a day's shoot is perhaps 3 days' effort.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're charging, for the sake of argument, 500 quid a day, I don't know what he does charge, can't remember now. But say you're charging 500 quid a day and you think, day shoot, 500 quid, which actually should be 1,500. Because that's what's involved. Right? So that's the premise of it. So he sat down and said, for the first time I sat down, I did a spreadsheet of what it actually costs me. And then he says, I also know that if I do a 1 hour job, it actually takes me probably nearer 2 hours because of a fudge factor. So I don't know how to do the fudge factor of what it, I don't know why I do it, but I always underestimate things by about half. So he doubled it as his fudge factor, times 2 is his fudge factor. Crunch the numbers, and he says, okay, so what was going to be, my gut reaction was to charge 400 quid. My second gut reaction was to then go, no, double that to 800. Actually comes out at 1,200. So that's what he charged. And the client came back probably 24 hours later. So it wasn't by return, but it was just a simple, yeah, let's do it. Send me the invoice. No pushback.
Easy lemon squeezy.
Now, that tells me two things. The first is it tells me he's been vastly undercharging for a long time, and he knows this. And he's really pissed off about it.
Everyone gets so upset, don't they, when they put their prices up and
including me.
Yeah, and they get one sale and they think, okay, this is great, could be a fluke. Then the next one comes in, they're like, oh, this is great. Yeah, well, and they make 5, they're buzzing. But once they get to like 10 sales, they're like, oh my God, how much money have I wasted?
We'll come to that very specific circumstance in a moment, because it's all part of the story I've got for you.
Apologies.
So that's fine. It's fine. It'll wet the listeners' panties. I mean appetite. So, no pushback at all. So, one, it tells me he's been vastly undercharging for a long time, and two, it also tells me that he's nowhere near what he could be charging for this without any other changes. Because you will get to a point where you keep raising your prices, and you will get pushback, because people are realistically, they're going to say at some point, well, hang on a minute. Yeah. You want to charge me £250,000 for a handbag, but I can get something which is just as high quality, handmade, for probably, let's get really fucking stupid, £1,000.
Yeah.
Where's the other $249,000? How does this work? And you've got to make that gap. You've got to close that gap somehow. That's okay. I'll get that. But here's the thing: where people are charging right now. Well, there's 3 numbers really. There's what you think it's worth, what you feel comfortable charging. There's what you think people will pay. And what you're actually charging is always less than that. And then there's what they will actually pay. The thing is, you don't know. You're here charging this. You think that's your limit. Your actual limit is somewhere up here. You don't know how big that gap is. And you will never know what that gap is until you stop pushing it. Well, that's uncomfortable. And that's what one of the things I do with my guys. 3 things are going to do in the first month. Stop working for free, so no more free calls or visits. Get paid up front, and if you've already got retainer clients, we go through a transition process, so they're not getting charged very quickly, twice in short succession at the end of a month and the beginning of a month. So stop working for free, get paid up front, and the third one is just raise your prices. Keep raising your prices, and you have a system for this. We'll come to that in a minute. So that's the first thing. This guy is now charging 3 times what he was charging for, because a few weeks ago we had a conversation. And he said he wanted to get out of doing studio work, but it was too lucrative and he couldn't afford to. It's a cycle. And as I've said before, cycles don't stop. They have to be broken, either internally or externally. Yeah. So I said to him, do you actually want, he said, I need to get 3 to 5 more clients to make up the slack. And I said, do you? Is it the clients you want, or is it the income you want? No, the income. Well, then just raise your prices. So, because what I actually said, if you could make the same amount of income from the same number of clients you've got now, would you want to add more clients, or would you want to just put your price? I'd have to go down the price route. Well, that's what we did, and that's what he's done. No pushback. And this costs nothing to do. It's not like you've got to build anything, not even a system or subscribe to a software or something. Maybe you want to do a spreadsheet. Oh, big fucking deal! 10 minutes work, And you don't even have to buy spreadsheet software, because you can use fucking Google Sheets. It literally costs you nothing but a little bit of time. And I know time is money, but maybe it takes you an hour to change a few numbers on your website. Big deal. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I am, as I've said before, I've got mobility problems. I don't mean like I can't walk or anything, but my range of motion.
You're just an old man, mate.
Well, that's part of it, but there are guys of my age who are not anywhere near as stiff as I am. There's a guy, I'm not going to name him, because it wouldn't be fair. Not that I mind promoting him, because I don't, and I will do when I got some results. But I spoke to him a year ago, and I said to him, look, I am interested, but I can't do it because my Achilles tendons are all inflamed, and I won't be able to sustain what you want me to do. So I messaged him yesterday, a year after being in rehab and therapy for my Achilles, and they're about right now. I basically said, I am stiffer than Jimmy Savile in the children's home, And he fucking pissed himself. Like, this is going backwards and forwards by email. And he says, I actually laughed out loud at that.
Stiffer than Jimmy in an orphanage.
That's true. But the thing is, we talked about this at the event in June. My flexibility isn't great, but it's passable. My mobility, which is range of motion under tension, is awful. I can't raising my arms. If you watch, as I pull back my arms, my elbows start to bend. See? And I can't easily. I mean, it's better than it was, bearing in mind I'm actually not upright. If I'm upright, I'm pulling my arms back as far as I can. I can't do that. I can get to about, 10 degrees, 5 degrees?
Yeah.
It's hard work. Now, if you were to push my arms, I can get them all the way back, but that's flexibility. My mobility is bad. It's very poor. Internal rotation of my arms, for instance, I can barely get them together.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
That's internal rotation. Internal rotation of my hips is even worse. It's better than it was, but I'm struggling to get my knees together.
Really?
They've got enormous bollocks. Anyway, just take it from me. My mobility is very poor.
And for anyone that was listening to that and wondered what the fuck was going on, log into wellfedbusiness.com and the podcast video will be posted there.
It'll be a video. So anyway, my mobility is poor, and I know I need to fix it because your longevity and your mobility are very highly correlated. And also, I'm 57 now. If I don't do something about it, I could be kind of, it's not impossible. I'll be in a wheelchair in 15 years. If I don't do something about it, it can be that bad.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, long story short, I got in touch with this guy who I spoke to a year ago, and I was very upfront a year ago. I said, look, I'm not going to waste your time. I can't do this right now. And I'm sure he told me it was a lot more money than it was. But anyway, he told me a certain amount of money. So he came back to me, and he just said, yeah, it's 12-week program. It's like 20 minutes. I think there are something like 3 20-minute sessions a week, 12 minutes every other day. WhatsApp for questions, and I check in on Zoom every month. Not entirely dissimilar from what I do with people.
Yeah.
And he said the investment is 470 quid. I said, I'm in.
And how long is that for?
12 weeks.
12 weeks. Yeah, it's not a bad deal, is it?
I said, my only reply says, I'm in, how do I pay you? That was it. I am the ideal client. I've got the money, I've got the motivation, I've got the will and the wherewithal to do it, and I just said, I'm in.
I'll never forget when we was on that phone call with the models
Bowen,
team, Mr. Bowen, and we just looked at each other, didn't we? He was like, right, we're going to cut the crap.
How much is it?
We're already in. We just want to know whether we can afford it. And we had a number. We didn't we? We spoke about it before. It was like, if it's around or less than 10,000 Great British pounds, isn't that what we said?
I think we said $15,000, didn't we?
$15,000.
10K.
At the time. I don't know what it is.
If it's under 10K, we're going to do it. And it was what, $7 or $8?
Dollars.
It was $10,000. It was about 8,000 quid, 7,000 quid. And we just said, we're in.
How much is it, didn't we? I think you went, Connor, what do you think? I went, yeah. And then you went, Connor, pay the lady.
Pay the lady. We did it we actually paid her in real time on the call, didn't we?
Yeah, there and then. And
anyway,
because you was getting impatient because you was having to she was trying to make small talk with you, and I found this incredibly funny. So I slowed down the process of making the payment. So I was like,
Well, she did a good call because on that kind of sales call, when the prospect is asking the price, you would normally say, "I'm not telling you yet."
Yeah, you push back.
But she correctly gauged us, knowing that we were going to do it.
Yeah,
we knew what we were into. She knew we got the money because she knew me from Taki Moore's group. Mm-hmm. So she made the right call. She broke the rules correctly there.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about the rules. You've got to know the rules before you break them.
We saw her hesitate. We did throw her off, didn't we? Yeah. She was kind of like, it's...
shall I tell him? Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Anyway, point being, this guy is selling me something I want very much. I need very much. There's a difference between want and need, but I'm aware of both of them. And I certainly want it. And he told me his sales process is shit. It really is. And I'm going to tell him, once I've paid him and I'm talking to him, I'm going to tell him, your sales process is shit. You're not charging enough. And you really need to get this fixed, mate, because you are leaving money on the table. If he'd have charged me, I don't know, £1,000, again, no hesitation. If it had said 1,500, I probably wouldn't have. I would have probably still done it, but I would have required a bit more reassurance of what I'm getting.
You'd have asked a question.
I'd ask more questions. But 470 quid, I'm not going to ask a fucking. I don't care. I mean, my level of trust in his abilities to get me some results. 470 quid's worth of results. You don't have to do very much for me to be very happy.
No.
To be honest on this.
No.
So yeah, it's all fucking good stuff. So that's the other thing. That's the second thing on price. Now the third thing is this: one of my long-term friend and client, he charges 500 quid. He's been charging 500 quid for a very similar thing to what I've just described, but rather than mobility, it's about losing fat, gaining muscle. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, pretty much identical, except there are no check-ins. But it's more or less the same thing. I've been trying to get him to charge 1,000 quid for it since forever, and he's obstinate.
Is that a 3-month thing, a month?
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's like I've just described. It's 12 weeks.
Okay.
You get a program, you get your diet, you get check-ins, you get guidance. The only thing you don't get, I think, is the one-on-one Zoom stuff. But otherwise, you've got WhatsApp. It's like for like. And he's been charging 500 quid. It might be 600. I can't remember now. But I've been trying to get him to charge more since forever. But he's, as we discussed before we came on air, he's boneheaded. He's stubborn. He gets fixated. So the other week, he finally started charging £1,000 for it. And 9 calls later, 8 people have converted at £1,000 without any resistance at all. I said to him, you know what this means, don't you? He says, I know what you're going to say. I don't want to do it. I said, but you know what I'm going to say, don't you? You're not charging enough still. Mm-hmm. Try 1,500. Yeah, but I'll lose some sales. Then in which case, go back down to 1,000 quid. You've just doubled your prices, man, and no one gives a shit. So let's treble them.
The whole fucking point is to keep track of your numbers and make sure you are losing people, but just enough that you're still making more money.
Well, I did
less hours and nowhere near as hard.
Yeah, I did a graph. It's in the newsletter this month, and I'll put it. I'm actually going to put it on the membership platform with an explanation of how it works, because it shows you. It's quite a complicated graph to get your head around at first, but it basically shows you what happens when you put your prices up and how much business you can afford to lose to keep your profits at the same level. So if you're making 35% profit right now, I'm going from memory now, you can lose something like 26% of your sales on a 20% price increase and maintain the same amount of profit. So you could basically work from Monday to Thursday instead of Monday to Friday. No, you could work till Wednesday afternoon or something. Or you can lose a quarter of your day. No, Thursday afternoon. So you can lose a quarter of your working week and make the same amount of money on a 20% price increase. Well, most people could sustain a 20% price increase and probably not lose any business. This guy's just doubled his, and he's done 8 out of 9. Okay, still small numbers, but it's indicative. The other guy, the photographer, he's trebled his. Again, no pushback. So and you could say, yeah, but these 2 guys are special cases. No, they're not.
Of course they're not. No,
they're not. They're actually probably at the higher end of their niches already.
People.
When I know some fit pros are charging 67 quid for the same 3-month thing. So, no.
People who really want a specific outcome want to pay more money because more money is a sign that it's more likely to work.
Hey guys, I'm recording this after the episode is finished. I'm back in the office and that's where I've been recording the episodes, and it seems we've been having some internet trouble. But don't fret, the show will go on, and I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you about a couple of things anyway. Number 1 is to go tell you to buy the book, as I always do, wellfedfreelancer.com. And the second thing is to encourage you to send some questions in. Email connor@wellfedbusiness.com, and anything you ask us will give you a comprehensive answer to. Whether it's about your pricing, a particular problem, about a strategy, about a big decision you've got to make, we'll get it answered for you comprehensively. The only caveat is we will discuss it on the podcast. That's Connor at wellfedbusiness.com. Connor spelled CONNOR. We've also been sending Holly on a training camp to learn how to actually run a fucking podcast. Me and John have been doing this for shits and gigs. We had someone doing it for a little while, but we weren't consistent with the podcast. But now we are. We thought it made sense to invest a little bit of money in Holly to get her trained up. So she's learning all about audio editing and whatnot. So we should begin to sound absolutely fantastic. And the structure of the podcast should improve. As we always say, this is not a democracy. It is a dictatorship. But if there's anything that you want to see or hear, or any tips or anything along those lines, email me. Don't email John, he'll tell you to fuck off, but email me, Connor at wellfedbusiness.com. And in the meantime, stay safe, go buy the book, see you on the membership site. Bye-bye.